to the killer feature for the Draft Dominator. This is the one thing that sets this app apart and why you really need to be drafting with the Draft Dominator in your fantasy football drafts: adaptive rankings. Put really simply, as drafts go on, we're going to have more information. There's going to be players who are on your roster now who weren't at the beginning of your draft, and exactly the same for the other teams in your league. Those guys will have players on their roster who weren't there at the beginning of their draft. We can predict who they're going to pick a little better, and we can just flat out do better with your rankings later in the draft because of that. So we got a draft here. We're into the 9th round, as we can see on the phone interface. I'm just going to keep things just there, simple on the phone, just so there's one cheat sheet for us to view. So the key to checking out, kind of going behind the curtain with the Draft Dominator's rankings at any time, is this wrench icon up here. It's always just going to be above the players list. It's in the same place on larger screens, tablets, and desktop as well. So kind of go behind the curtain here and have a look at what's going on in the app. So the first thing to note is we've got a projection optimism section at the top. All of this is handled automatically by the app, and without really looking at this screen and kind of digging into this, it's just going to do its job well for you and get you a nice updated rankings list. But if you come into here, you can just exert a bit more control over what's going on with the application. So if you move this slider all the way to the left, it's going to give you a set of rankings in the 9th round. They're entirely based on what we think the most likely outcome is for all of these players that are left in the draft. But around this time in the draft, that's not really what we should be looking at when we're drafting players, because we're 8 rounds in, so we've got our main starters. We're really looking for upside and sleepers. So the kind of counter example that I've always given over the years is Brian Hartline. He was typically a guy who was always going to get you somewhere between 600-700 receiving yards, maybe 50-60 catches if you're lucky, and a handful of touchdowns. And that's always going to be the kind of stat line that isn't ever going to break into your fantasy starting lineup. So there's really no point in drafting him. There's always a similar level player who's available on the waiver wire week to week. So if instead we go in here and we put upside to 100%, it's now going to give us a rankings list that is entirely based on the best possible outcome for each of these players. And the player that you see jump to the top of the rankings, near to the top of the rankings there, who wasn't previously in view, is Kareem Hunt. And if you think about that's the kind of player that we should start to beginning to take a look at in the 9th round. Someone who his situation is a little bit unknown. I mean, you can easily win fantasy leagues with zero production from your 9th round pick, but at the same time, you can win your fantasy league because your 9th round pick turned out to be a 2nd or 1st round value. So Kareem Hunt might be that guy this year. So we take a look at upside, he jumps up the rankings, and we can consider him at this point in the draft because he has the potential to outperform this draft position. And again, we leave this on auto, and the app thinks 35% projection optimism is probably the optimal value in the 9th round for this league, which is quite a deep roster league. And it's going to handle that automatically for us. And now in the 10th round, it's moved it up to 42%. And if I just skip forward a few more rounds, there, Kareem Hunt, it moved to the top of our draft list for us based on upside in the 12th round. And now we're in our 13th round pick, and it's going more on upside now in the 13th round than the kind of expected outcome for each player. And so we're going to see a bunch of players here with this green circle icon with a green arrow inside it. And those are players that we've tagged who have that extra special upside. And we've got a comment there from Matt Waldman. Matt is one of our staffers at Footballguys who is renowned across the industry for his rookie scouting portfolio. This guy knows rookies and how they may or may not perform for fantasy football production purposes better than anyone else. So we've got a comment here saying he's got the excellent speed, good contact balance for his size for a running back. And obviously we've got the factor of Gurley's injury situation here in June. I'm recording this video, so we don't really know what's going on with Todd Gurley. So Darrell Henderson, good young running back in a situation where he may get the majority of touches. So we're going to move him up the draft board, and we've got that extra bit of information and background on why he's been singled out as a player with high upside, and likewise with Marquez Valdes-Scantling there as well. So that's upside. Really important as drafts go on to be drafting with upside. You don't want Brian Hartline on your roster. We certainly don't want him now, but I'd suggest you probably never wanted him when he was playing in the NFL either.